everybody, welcome back to the Salt and Streets podcast, the most pro-America, anti-government show that you know, the show where we discuss news, government, and culture and how it pertains to you, the individual, and your natural rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I am, of course, that big bird-looking fellow they call Colin, and I am joined once again, as per the usual, by my co-host, brother-in-arms, the Nero of Neoprene, the original Salt of the Street himself, Donovan Phillips. How are you today?
I am excellent, sir. Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm working on my my H. Foley style opening. That dude gets me so hyped at the beginning of their show.
He's good. He's very good.
Well, what are we doing today? What are we talking about? What's the date? What's the time? All the things.
Yeah, today is July 15th, 2023. This is episode 152 of Salt of the Streets.
Boom.
Of course, this episode and everything after this, all the parts and all the pieces are executively produced by Zeke Gata. If you want to be an executive producer just like Zeke, you can subscribe at the top tier on our Patreon, which you can find at patreon.com/Salt of the Streets. You can find everything else, including our own personal social media at Salt of the Street on Twitter and at alpaca_Donovan on Instagram. And Colin is a big bird off on both those things. You can find all of that at saltofthestreets.com. Today for part one, it's mostly let me ask you this thing. That's how it's turned out. We have some local stories. It's all tyranny here. It's all bad.
All tyranny.
It's never good news. It's all bad.
Tyranny.
Yeah. There's only good discussions.
Hey, that's the title of the episode already.
It's all tyranny.
It's all tyranny.
Yeah. So in part two, we're going to be talking about a court case going on, because I thought initially that it was a Supreme Court case, but it's actually like district court, something like that.
Okay. It's a regular ass court case.
Yes. Yeah. And so that has to do with the way the federal government involves itself with social media companies. There was an injunction, an injunction granted there that saying that the federal government needed to cease their involvement with social media companies, and they promptly appealed. So we're going to be discussing that, the implications of that, why that's a big deal, of course, for freedom and liberty. And then we're going to be talking about the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, which is something that's passed every year. I'm sure most people know about it, especially if you are a veteran or you're in the military now. And what that is the budget for the DoD every year. So we're going to be talking about that and the issues that are going on with that right now. And then part three, we have Ukraine update, of course. Lots of Ukraine stuff going on, different aspects. Cluster munitions, NATO memberships, things.
Aren't those illegal? I thought. Oh, hey.
Things of that nature. And then part four, grab bag, of course, Colin. And then I have
fatty.
Yeah, I have two things for the grab bag, but we'll mix them in. I told you already, but we'll mix them in other places. So
I'm just acting surprised for the people.
Oh, yeah. No, it's going to be a great show. So I'm very excited.
It's very good. But first and foremost, since we were all last together, we had 4th of July, aka the Independence Day. How was your 4th?
I was sick the whole time, remember?
I remember.
I stayed home. So the
real
family,
low key.
Yeah, the family went out to Keyport to do the stuff that we usually do there, but I just stayed home.
Oh, there's a parade and stuff, right?
Yeah, there's like a little parade, and then at the Keyport House, there's always a big family party there. Yeah, I guess they used to do their family reunion on the 3rd at another family member's house in Paulsbo, and then because everyone was already in town, they would all get together for the 4th the following day. Because they got people in New Mexico, and their families originally are from Wisconsin, so there's a bunch of people from out there and like all that shit.
What was the town that? Because you guys went there a few years ago, right?
I did not go there. I went to that was to Kevin's family in Michigan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but that town was called Free Soil. That was
the Free Soil state of Jones.
Yeah, but the Wisconsin family is from a very similar town. Just
you drive in a minute to get to the airport.
Yeah, precisely. Her great grandparents on that side are buried like in the cornfield of their families. So it's a whole deal.
Very nice. Very nice.
What about you?
Sorry, I got distracted. I was just kind of hanging out. Went to Ransom Aaron's because it's 4th of July. Everything's still open.
Yeah.
Thank goodness, because, what a better time to go take care of your business. So Ransom Aaron's was really nice. It was fucking gorgeous out that day, which is not a usual thing for 4th of July around here. Usually we get kind of like overcast and rainy and just kind of crappy, but we've had such a sweet streak of the weather lately. Stopped by the brewery, hung out for a couple hours, came back here, and then got the one dog that can actually still hear all drugged up, so we wouldn't freak out too much since it's a fucking war zone out here.
That's what you were saying.
Yeah, and so once he was like super chill, and I started to hear like the major fireworks going off, they sounded like they were right next door. And I was
Yeah.
like, what? Okay, so I went outside and checked, and there's 7 major camps that encircle my house, and they're coming from like the super nice houses, and then the community back behind us was also launching a giant ass display. And so I just went inside, grabbed a couple beers and a cigar, and sat out on top of my truck and just watched the fireworks for a couple hours. Man, it was wild.
I like it.
And there was like 3 finales that took place that I saw. There was, because somebody would like go off on a finale, and then like 2 minutes later another camp would, and then 2 minutes later another camp would, and then they're like, we're not going to be one-upped, and so they did another one and then another one, and then they slowly started to drop out until there was one final survivor, and they were like midway up the hill, and I could see them perfectly from my house. So then they were the last one standing. They were still popping off like about every 2 to 3 minutes. They'd send up like 5 or 6 massive mortar shells.
Yeah.
It was a cool deal. It was a
big
cool deal.
boys.
Yeah. But I'm like just now starting to get back to normal. We had a regular week this week, which was rough considering the 4th of July week.
It was
like,
nice.
Worked like a couple days.
Yeah.
And then it was like there was a party here, there was a party there. We were just hanging out all sorts of different places, and I'm starting to finally feel like I'm back to normal again. It took an extra week, and I'm like, okay, no, I think I remember how to live like a regular life again.
I'm
it was
finally
so
getting
weird.
back to normal.
It was
You're
so weird.
hilarious.
It was a fucking blast though, man. And the fucking summer weather that's been here lately and just is not going away.
I'm over it.
You're over it
I'm
already, bro. It's
way
it's
over it.
July, buddy.
Yeah. No, I'm over it. The heat, I'm done with.
The heat is. I'm not here for the heat, bro. It's like been in the mid 80s
Done with all
more
that.
than a few times. Like it could be nice and sunny out, and if it's chilling like
Yeah.
75, super happy with that.
Dude, I like a chill like 70. you know?
Chill 70.
Like I love that. I'm in love with 70. I'm a huge fan of that. I'm big into it. Anything over that, I'm like, all right, it's a little too much. We're gonna be too much.
Dude,
Yeah.
sun's out so hard right now. I'm going golfing tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm
gonna be
excited to
legit.
hear how you do. You
You're
know,
excited to make fun of me for how bad I did. That's
no, I don't even expect you to count. You know,
no, I probably will not.
yeah, no, I'm excited to. Like you said, you used to golf all the time, right?
Yeah, back in the day.
105 in Texas, yeah,
Yeah.
And
Yeah, we're a bunch of bitches up here, Deborah.
It'd be like that here sometimes, you know, but it chills like around 95, you know, when it gets hot most days, and
Yeah. I'm just not here for it.
I'm not even saying it's so wildly hot. I just don't like it.
Yeah.
I'm not into it. Like I'm personally not into it. I much preferred when we were kids
Yeah.
and it would get to 80 and we're like, damn, it's a fucking scorcher today, you know?
Yeah, dude.
I liked that. a
All
lot
I'm saying
more.
is that we're way too goddamn close to Canada for
Yeah.
it to be this hot.
Because we've been
If you're down in Texas, it makes sense.
yeah.
Canada's right there. I could be there in 3 hours.
The last few summers we've had heat waves where it hits over 100, and that's too much. That's way too
Too
much.
much. Not into it.
Yeah.
I remember we had a fucking scorcher last year. It
Yeah.
was way over 100. It was like a Black Flag Day. Everybody was like, yeah, don't really come to Bark or whatever.
Right.
Hung out at the fucking beach. It was really nice.
Yeah. You shouldn't be doing that. I don't
It's
like
too
that.
hot.
Yeah. I don't like it. Shouldn't be doing that. Not into it.
That's hilarious.
No.
Well, you want to dive right into the question time?
Yes, you said
All
you have
right.
a couple too, right?
Let's go. Yeah, I think I've whittled it down to one 3-part question. But depending on how into it,
yeah,
We'll see.
we'll mix them in.
yeah, we'll see.
With that, let me ask you this. Okay, so I have 3 of them. Let's see where we want to start. Okay, this goes from a conversation that I was having with Jordan the other day. There are some people that live at the bottom of our hill that are neighbors, and one dude has a Joe Biden flag on his house, and the next guy has like 3 fuck Joe Biden flags, and you know he has like a Donald Trump flag.
But if you've got the fuck JB flags, you definitely got a Trump flag. In
Yeah,
there.
he has a Trump flag. He has like a Let's Go Brandon flag, and then I think he also has a Gadsden. And so you know,
Is that at the bottom of the hill?
yeah, at the bottom
Towards
of the
the
hill.
split house?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we were talking about how funny that dynamic was, and then I told Jordan, that I was intrigued by people who still were supporting Joe Biden this far into the game, right? We're 3 years in, we're seeing it. So
Yeah.
I want to ask you, is there any argument that you can think of that the country is in a better place with Joe Biden as president going forward? In the next 4 years, right? 2024 and on. Do you think
Okay.
there's any argument that the country's in a better place with Joe Biden as president as opposed to Donald Trump, if those are the options?
I think it's an objective no. I think in any level you can take a measurement, any place you can take a measurement, it's going to be a hard no.
Yeah.
It's going to be a hard no. That's not going to stop his sycophants from, lying to themselves and denying and saying everything's great. I mean, there seems to be running polls every, 3 to 6 months of like various, the breakdowns of where people in various political parties and associating with other political parties, how they view the state of the nation. Everybody's nosediving except for like hardcore, like I voted for Biden and I will vote for him again.
Yeah.
He's way up in that category, but he's the only one. That's the only category where he's actually up. And so, again, I don't like any kind of polling or anything like that, but if those are the trends they're going to be showing on fucking, in the corporate press, that's rough business out there, man. I mean, inflation is still popping, so economically shitty. Prices that go along with that, prices are the highest they've ever been still. Trying to buy a house is damn near impossible.
Because
we're in a fucking war in Europe. That's new.
Right.
We're about, we got tensions with fucking China invading Taiwan, and we have a president who says one thing, and then the White House will have to, change what he said. Like, that's not actually our stance.
Correct him.
The dude's falling down left and right. His family is in total disarray with a crackhead running around doing bumps of coke on the fucking White House, overlook on 4th of July.
Someone losing multiple bags of drugs at different times in the White House.
Yeah. They found, I got a story that we'll talk in part 2 about when we're kind of just talking about Hunter Biden and shit like that. That back in 2022, Secret Service found multiple bags of weed in the White House. It's like there's obviously a drug problem at the White House.
Right.
And only during the Biden administration. Our standing on the world stage has fallen to the lowest it's ever been.
Kevin.
I mean, personal freedoms and liberties are at an all-time fucking low and continually trying to be, shut down by the administration. So, yeah, on every objective level, it's worse off today, and it will be worse off if he wins again, which I still, I placed that bet, so he's not going to make it to actually run.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We still got a minute. We still got a hot minute. I could be right.
I saw the pictures of him at the beach, and they look pretty rough. He just
dragging around the chair.
And I haven't seen any of that. Just pictures of him, just as a human being. It just looks rough. And I'm not saying that Donald Trump at the beach would look like a ton better, because he also is going to look like he's in rough shape for a human being.
Yeah. Can you imagine how pale that dude is other than his head?
But I think that he would look more stable physically.
Yeah, probably. He could rather walk down the beach not looking like he's about to fall over.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's uncomfortable to watch Biden walk anywhere.
Yeah.
Saw a video of him when he was over in the UK.
The hands up and stuff. It's just a...
It's Mr. Burns from The Simpsons. That's who is the fucking president right now, dude. That's who.
That's so funny.
Probably sits there and yes. He's got his little Mr. Smithers, which is Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah.
It's good shit.
Yeah, I told Jordan I didn't think that there was like a good, honest argument to make that we were in a better place now,
Yeah.
I said I can understand. I still think they would be wrong. I can understand where someone would be of an ideology where on a social stance they're like, well, our president doesn't hate gay people and blah blah whatever,
Yeah.
Like I don't think I feel the country doesn't feel any less divided now than it was when Donald Trump was president. So I don't know how much that matters, in effect.
Yeah.
But those people probably also ignore Donald Trump being the first president to openly support gay marriage when he was running for office. So,
Oh yeah, no, he helped usher in the age of transgenocide. Obviously,
right.
He kicked all the people out of the military.
Yeah.
He's a Nazi and will always be a Nazi, and that's it's a fascist, racist nation if ever Donald Trump's in charge.
Oh, for sure.
So
And-
if that's your ideology, then you can't help but say we're in a better place.
Because we are a fascist, racist nation, I was thinking about, Kevin, when Biden goes out in public, I find myself waiting for him to trip or fall. That's not exactly what you want as leader of the free world. What is the heart about?
The heart?
The heart over the chat thing. What is?
Oh, I can.
Oh, we can do emojis now. Oh, there you go. All right. Producer note.
I can do it over here.
Okay, so I was thinking about affirmative action. So we discussed that last week.
As one
Court
does.
case. People are very upset about it. This is going to happen. People aren't going to get into school. And there's been a wave of people that are saying, okay, all right. So let's talk about
Rewind
affirmative
a
action
little
for a
bit.
second, and then I'll ask a question. Because I've seen a lot of people that are saying, like, I wouldn't have got into school if it wasn't for affirmative action. Okay. This confuses me to hear people say, because I'm not trying to be a dick. What that says to me is you're saying you didn't meet the qualifications that are set out, but they had other parameters that they could use to allow you to get in.
Okay. That's not their view of it, though. The way they see that is that they would have been held back due to systemic racism if, like, they would have been just as qualified as the next person, but because of their race or the color of their skin, they wouldn't have gotten in without affirmative action.
But they weren't the most qualified as the next person, or as qualified because they didn't meet the standards, right? Like
But
the
they don't
standards
see it that way. That's not their argument. Crystal Ball and
yeah, now I don't.
and Jasinski. I think it was Jasinski. Yeah, they had two people of color on that were from opposing sides of this issue, and they had a debate on breaking points about it. And that was the only and best argument that side would make. That's like the only one I can ever hear go down. You can't factor in merits like you normally would think on like some kind of school admissions. They can't even comprehend that because the system itself is so systemically racist. There's no room for any of that stuff. You could lie to yourself. This is them talking. You could lie to yourself and say that they're going to just accept people based off the merit, but really they've been racist since their inception at this point, and so the racism is so built into the system. The only way to get around that is through affirmative action.
That's what the argument is?
Yeah, it's a dumb argument, but
We should watch that later after
Okay.
the show or whatever. I don't know how long that
yeah, I
clip
think it's
is,
like
but-
20 some minutes.
Yeah, so we'll
I'll
watch it
pull
when
up.
we're done. But I'm interested in watching that because I don't. Okay, so I think we talked about this. We've talked about affirmative action many times. So I feel strongly confident. Where's the fucking alpha brain? I feel confident that I've expressed this before. I know I brought some. It's somewhere on the table. There it is. I feel strongly that I've expressed this before. I think there's an argument to be made that at a certain point in time, affirmative action was helpful, right? To deal with some of the racism that did exist in a lot of parts of
in specific sectors.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
right.
Because it's also important to remember that this particular Supreme Court case on affirmative action only applied to college admissions.
Yes.
This has nothing to do with like government hiring practices
Right.
or anything like that. So
Right.
that stuff's still around.
And this kind of, I think, speaks to, I know I said this the last time we talked about it, last episode, that it's worth at least taking this away to test. Is there racism that's going on here? Because if the argument is just that it's baked in and we know it, that's not good enough for me. That doesn't wash. That's not a good enough reason as to why we should be doing it.
No,
Because
I'm
you're-
on your side.
yeah, because you're telling me that it's baked in. I'm not gonna. It's 2023. I'm not doing that anymore.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there was a time where I would have been like, hey, "You're probably right. I'll accept that, and we'll move forward."
It's real hard to prove a negative, isn't it?
Yeah, not anymore. So, at the very least, as a social test, it's worth taking it away to
Word.
see what the deal is, and the response from the colleges, like you talked about last week, where they're saying, well, we're not going to take race into account anymore, but the essay question is going to be, how has race affected your life, or
Yeah.
something of that variety.
If you want to talk about how racism has
Yeah.
affected your life, we'll know what's up.
If you're white, what else can your answer be for them other than, well, I'm white, and so it made me evaluate my place in this world and my privilege and my blah blah blah. What other acceptable answer is there going to be to a school like Stanford or Harvard, something like that?
You
you're trying to
cannot
get into?
insert all the required keywords without going down that path.
It doesn't matter if Tim Kennedy shared, he's always doing stuff like this. He shared a story a few weeks ago of a girl who was born in prison. Her mom was in prison. She was born there. And then she got a full ride scholarship to some Ivy League school, right? If you're that girl, and you're white, if she was, you can't be like, well, whatever. Race hasn't really affected my life because any more than my economic factor is because I was born in a prison and now I've worked hard to do this.
Yeah.
And me being white has zero fucking to do with any of that. Like, that's not an acceptable answer, but what other greater hurdles could you overcome
literally born in a fucking prison.
as a youth than to be born in a prison and then try and get to an Ivy League school?
The race was not my problem. It was the justice system.
Yeah, that's a very interesting. Yeah, I want to watch that clip. So the question that I had regarding this was, what do we learn from a change in the college admissions process and the results because of affirmative action, right? The results meaning the people that get accepted into college.
I think it'll...
I know it's a big question.
we won't really know what we learn until we see it play out, like you were talking about, right? It'll be interesting. We could probably make some hypotheses about what could happen, but I mean, these institutions are so overrun with like rampant corruption in every aspect of the administration side of all these massive colleges.
We talked about the money last week. Last episode.
Huge. And so I would be really interested to see essentially how they operate to maintain their current status quo as it is, because they don't want to change it. I don't think you're going to see a massive influx in like Asians and whites going to colleges, going to like these Ivy League schools, because they're still going to find ways to get whatever demographic makeup that they desire. They're still going to find ways to achieve that goal, because there's a million and one ways you could do it. And it'll be interesting to see how they do that, or if they just let it ride and see what the fuck happens. I would doubt that very much, though. I would doubt that it's going to be a purely meritocratic system,
right,
at any level. So we will see. I don't know if I don't think I'd make a bet on that either way. Yeah, I don't know, because they don't really stand to lose much if they just let things go, because then they could just say, well, the Supreme Court is responsible for this, isn't us. Or they'll find a way to
filled
just...
with whites now, but we didn't do it.
Exactly. And so I don't know. I could see that being a 50-50, which one of those two directions it'll go.
Yeah,
I wouldn't make a bet on either one. I'm leaning more they'll maintain the status quo in whatever way they possibly can. But they could just be like, hand grenade, fuck it, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe a 51-49. We'll go that way.
So it seems to me, and I'm not well versed in this type of, racism, so I'm not totally certain how they're viewing it, but it seems like if you're trying to keep everything equitable,
Indeed.
then if the people being admitted into your college didn't fit the demographic, like if you have 20% of your applicants that are black and 30% that are Asian and 10% that are the lads and then 40% that are whites, right?
The lads?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Latinos. Right?
Oh, okay, got it.
So if you have anything different than those percentages that are being accepted into your school, then I would think you would look at that and say, there's some form of equitable problem here. So, but maybe I don't get totally how they're viewing it.
Well, yeah, that would be my thing is, are they going to go for even-keeled 10% of all the races across the board? Or would they go, it needs to be an equal makeup of the population of the country.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So if it's like 13% this, 20% this, 45% that. So, because the equity argument goes both directions. It needs to be totally equal, 1 for 1, or it needs to reflect demographic of the area or the country or whatever
Right.
however big the institution
Right.
is. And they just kind of get to pick whatever one fits best
Yeah,
for them.
I wonder how that's
mean,
being implemented.
yeah.
I want to know what their. So obviously they're not supposed to have them, nor are the police departments. But
No.
they all have quotas. You know, they all have a thing, whether it's written somewhere, a quota that they want to meet for each particular race, and I'm interested to know what that is. You
Yeah.
know, what their personal quota is.
That's the White House or Congress.
There you go.
Somebody's over in D.C. today. Yeah, I'd be interested to see how it works out. But these are questions with no answers for the
Yeah.
moment, and that's kind of where we're going to have to live for a while. So-
Okay, well, the third
so
one
we'll
that I
see.
have, speaking of the government, now that you've shown me this picture, this has all worked out very nicely. You're helping with these transitions very well. No, not everyone is seeking higher education, so why would it be the same as the U.S. population? Word, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'm only thinking, I'm speaking strictly if you're looking at it through an equity view, right?
Yeah.
If you're a leftist and you're trying to make up these quotas,
Yeah.
what other equitable way would there be to go about it? Unless you're saying, well, we got to like +5 to, each of these minority categories away from the white category because of these injustices, and
Yeah.
who gets the plus or minuses. Obviously, the Asians get a minus because there's too many.
Too
already
many and they're
being
too smart.
accepted, yeah, based off of merit.
Yeah.
Okay, so that one has to do with the government, right? And I don't remember why I started thinking about this. Brian brought it up. But we're talking about all the cool stuff that Brian does.
All the cool guy stuff.
Yeah, and I'm not going to go into detail about it, but all the cool stuff that Brian does. So it made me think about part of what this podcast is about. We,
God forbid the Asians work too
yeah,
hard.
God forbid, to potentially to our own detriment in the state, depending on whether or not this, extremism committee gets passed or not.
Oh.
We tend to, let me make sure that I say this the right way. We satirically express anti-government sentiment to entertain our audience.
Thank God for
So-
satire, right?
I'm interested in, without bragging, and that's for context of the audience, that we're not making a list of like, these are the ways that we're really cool, right? But what are some of the ways, and I'll go first so you can think about it, that you in your life embody these anti-government sentiments, right? So I'll go first because I was thinking about one of the things that Brian said, and so I haven't registered my truck in like close to 2 years, and partially when it first happened, I was like, I just don't have the money right now. Like, I just don't want to do it, And now a long time has gone by, and I've thought a lot of times about what would I say to a police officer when he's like, why the fuck haven't you registered your car in 2 years? And my response is, because I've thought about it a ton, is that on the list of things that I have to pay for, paying more taxes to the government is just on the very bottom of the list. That's the very, very last thing that I'm concerned about doing for a vehicle that I already own, that I'm paying somebody else to keep my vehicle anyway. I have a lot of other shit. I'm paying taxes in 9 different ways every single day.
Yep.
So
And you're a homeowner now too, so there's even
yes,
more there.
yes, our gas tax is fucking me. My property taxes are fucking me. Money is getting stolen out of my paycheck for care that I'm never going to see because I'm going to go to another state. It's going to, money is being stolen from me on a daily basis.
Yeah.
It is the last thing on my list to give you $120 to put a sticker on my car that you say tells me I can keep driving it on the road that I'm also paying for. So I just don't care. So that's the first thing that I thought of. And I think I also think a ton about the concealed carry thing. Like, my permit is still valid. I think a ton about when this expires, what am I going to do? Am I really going to go and pay $50 for nothing to change my life, for the sheriff's department to send me a different piece of paper that they laminated that's going to replace this one?
It doesn't fit in your wallet.
Nothing else will change in my life. Nothing at all. That's the only thing will change. I don't have to take a course. Even if something passes in between now and then,
Oh, yeah.
I'll be grandfathered in because I already have it.
Yep.
So literally nothing will change other than if I have an interaction with a police officer, they'll have an issue with how I've conducted myself. That is all. That's the only effective change that happens. And I think if we, that's the point of the show to me, right? And I'll elaborate on that now. This is not how I planned it. The point of the show to me is we are trying to open people's eyes to the basest level of these interactions that we're having with individuals and with bodies of the government, right? These things they're asking you to do, that they're telling you that are breaking law, that are against the rules. It's not okay to do this. If you don't follow this, you don't pay this tax, you can't do this thing. There is no effective change. Nothing actually changes if you don't do this. It's just money out of your pocket. You've just been coerced out of your own money, out of your own labor, so you can continue to conduct yourself in a way that you're already conducting yourself. This is how we know this is a problem.
It's kind of like a various aspects and degrees of nonviolent civil disobedience.
Yes.
Right.
Does that make sense what I said? I know
Yeah.
it was a little bit convoluted, but
No, that's because what, as you were describing, I was like, okay, yeah, that's the way I would phrase it. That's the way I think about it.
yes.
And I think that's, generally speaking, I would agree with you that that's kind of what the show has become at this point. And that's like the purpose of the show at this point, is to, while we discuss the current goings on of the world, talk about, like, because yeah, we talk about it when we open the show. We're an anti-government, pro-America show, and there is no better way to embody nonviolent civil disobedience in that way than to be against the government and for the nation. You know what I mean? For the country.
Yes.
And there's so many ways, so many aspects in life that we cannot escape the tyranny, but there's so many ways that we can. That, yes, every day, every person commits X number of felonies or whatever it is, and that's I don't know how real that is, but I know tons of people every day that will do something technically illegal because that's the way they're living their lives. They're not infringing on anybody else's rights. They're not doing anything wrong. There might be a law in the books that says that's wrong, and if somebody really wanted to hem you up, they technically could because they have a monopoly on force.
Right.
But as far as my life, one, I know for sure we don't really do it anymore because it's not really an issue anymore, but we did it for years, was all the pushback that we did during COVID.
Yeah.
Did not follow any of the local mandates about wearing masks here, going into store. If I just wouldn't service an establishment if they had these fucked up situations going on. Did I close my business? No. Did I work every day even though we were supposed to be closed?
Right.
I worked there. I continued to live my life as if it was fine, as to the best of my ability. In the modern, like COVID aside and like the stuff I do every day, other than, so like I think one of the big ones is having conversations with people, everyday folks that you know, your friends, your family, strangers at the fucking bar or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Having conversations, and everything is politics now. So at some point in most conversations, you're going to talk about some kind of issue that we would talk about here. Being able to give my input from like a real liberty-based standing, it always gets people thinking.
Yeah.
Which is, there's a plus right there. I'm actively working against the tyranny of the government every single day in that little way. Making choices with how I use my money, where I use it, to places that, if they're super supportive of like the establishment government, or if they're super pro, lefty or whatever, there's a lot of ideological flags and signs that they generally post because they have to virtue signal to indicate that in their world they're one of the good guys. I don't give them any of my money.
There's a lot of that around here.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. Speed limits are suggestions.
Yeah.
I'll put it that way. I don't know. I guess I really never thought about it. I just kind of always do that. I do not like authority at all, and I will do everything in my power to push back against that in a way that I can still go about living my life in the normal manner. I'm not going to give any money to law enforcement ever. If I have the capacity to not give them money, I will not do that.
Yeah.
If there's going to be a raise in taxes and it's going to go towards that, I'm going to vote no every time. That kind of shit. I mean, I'm trying to think.
I told Jordan that I thought that her starting her business is going to be a really good opportunity for us to interact more with the government and find
yeah.
more and more reasons why we don't fucking like them.
Yeah.
And she
Yes,
also,
that will happen.
because we're married, we're gonna own this business together, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, well, fuck, like if I'm gonna have this much, if I'm gonna be operating in this close proximity to the government, like I might just get my FFL. Like if I'm already gonna be like doing this, they're gonna be watching me this close. I might as well just get a fucking FFL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At least I can have my friends ship things to my
Yeah.
house and give it to them myself.
That's true. Very true.
Open up the door to some more shit that I can have too.
Yeah. Another thing I thought about is I try to do a lot of, depending on what it is, if I'm going to go buy something that's like a relatively decently priced item, I'm going to do everything I can to pay cash for
Cash.
it and find the smallest level of establishment that I can buy it from.
Yeah.
Because in that way, I mean, because all the biggest, all the big box stores and all that stuff, they work hand in glove with the government for all the regulations that got them to where they are, and
Yeah.
they give millions of the dollars that they make from your money, they give them to those super PACs that will then
Yeah.
give them to, so do that. I like to, whenever possible, I like to participate in like trade or barter.
Barter.
as
We
well,
do a ton of bartering. Phillips family does a ton of bartering.
It's a solid way to fucking do it.
Yeah.
I showed you that picture of my brother sent me the other day of that case of fucking cider that he got.
Yeah.
Traded his time and labor for something he deemed was acceptable at that
Yeah.
point. I'm like, that's a great way to give the middle finger to the man. You could do more opaque things like you're not the first person to talk about not registering your vehicle for long periods of time. I've
Yeah.
known a lot of people that have done that and been fine with it.
Well, and at this point, honestly, the cops got bigger shit going on. They're not really pulling people over for stuff like that right now because they just have other shit going on.
Yeah, and in this particular state especially,
yeah,
it's hard for them to do anything about most things.
you got to even be speeding hard for them to like really get after you.
Yeah.
And depending on what city you're in, if you're going too fast, they have to leave you alone anyway. So they can't get in a high speed chase.
Yeah.
So it just depends
Yeah.
on where you are. This state is terrible. It's
Bro. Or that's kind of nice in a certain way
Yeah.
if you really think about it. But that bleeds down into like all the shit that happened like with my truck. And I hear stories about people's fucking cars being broken into crime is at the highest level it's been.
bad.
It's super, super bad. I think I have a story in here about Tacoma the state having the highest murder rate. They had the highest murder rate in 22 that we've ever had, and it continues to just go up.
the carjackings too, and there's
man.
I think we meant to talk about it a couple episodes ago and didn't get around to it because we're doing all this type of shit in part 1, but yeah, they're the highest they've been like since 2019 on, and most people are attributing it to that same thing I was talking about, that in like Seattle and stuff, they can't pursue people just because they're in a stolen vehicle. They have to have committed another crime.
Yeah.
And so the cops are like, I literally can't go and find a stolen vehicle just because it's stolen, even if I see it and know that it's a stolen vehicle and that's the
Yep.
person who stole it, which is insanity. Like that's what other things should you be doing besides reclaiming people's property that they have? Someone's property has been stolen from them. What else are you
That's
supposed
like-
to be doing?
One of the OG rights, bro.
Yeah, you're not protecting somebody. You're on a street corner. You're looking for someone who's done something wrong. That person stole their property from somebody else. Return it. Get that fucking thing and return it to the person who it was stolen from.
Yep.
What else? What else is your job?
Oh, I have a funny story about this, actually.
Brian,
Brian's in the chat.
the problem is we can't police ourselves because the government has a monopoly, 100%. Anytime I leave my truck for more than a few minutes, I pull my starter and fuel pump fuses.
Bro, I was talking to this dude yesterday. He's got this dope-ass fucking hot rod truck that he just got. It's so cool. It doesn't even have fucking door handles. You hit the button on the key fob and the door pops
wow.
open so you can open it. It's
What about when your fob
super
dies, bro?
We'll address that question next time I see Kevin. But it's dope as fuck. This truck is legit, but he's talking about installing a kill switch underneath the dash that goes to the ignition, and possibly like we're just fucking around with other systems where you could put it would be the easiest. Like,
Yeah.
what if you can just cut the power with a little kill switch? Would be super easy. just do that, because then, yeah, you wouldn't have to pull out your starter and fuel pump fuses.
Oh, when you get out, you can just hit that,
Just
and
click
they
that.
won't know that it's there.
Yeah, and then if somebody
okay,
tries to do
I
that, it
gotcha.
literally just will not operate, will have no power to it. So you're not the first person to talk about that, Brian.
God damn,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah, that's some wild shit. Because that's how bad shit's gotten here.
And you can't. I actually know someone. Whether or not this is responsible is not the point. This is the story. I know someone whose vehicle was being stolen from them, and they drew on that person. That person got a gun charge. You cannot, in fact, draw on somebody just because they're stealing your property. You're not allowed to do that. Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah, you get in trouble for that. You can't do that.
Government tyranny.
Yeah, they have to be trying to hurt you.
Yeah.
They can't just be taking your stuff. You can't draw on somebody. I think if you're in your house, it's different, but it's because he was outside of his dwelling and he was at
You
his
cannot
vehicle.
stop somebody by force if they're stealing your property.
I don't know the exact particulars. I know that he caught a gun charge for doing just that. So I don't. Yeah.
That's so fucked. And he's going to lose his rights at that point.
That was a couple
Probably,
years ago.
I would imagine.
I think he just kept doing his thing, But it's most of the-
Nonviolent civil disobedience.
most of my friends operate under the same
Yeah.
same way.
Well,
you
and
know?
this is not like, because we talk a lot about the state and we're in local segment, so we're
Yep.
focusing on state. But this happens in Texas. I'm a fan of the Drinking Bros.
Yep.
And over the past week or so, one of the hosts had their really nice, he's got a fucking Ford Raptor.
That's a nice
Real
truck.
nice truck. Got stolen. They're in Austin.
That's tragic.
And he has a locating service with it through OnStar.
Nice.
But they will not divulge the location of your property if you are not in possession of it.
What?
It's a weird deal. I think if the vehicle is stolen, they won't report on that because it's something to do with like liability or insurance type things that OnStar is like, yeah, we just won't get involved.
They won't even tell the police?
Nope. And so
Like, I can understand why they wouldn't tell you because, like, we don't want to, I don't
Enable
agree with
something.
it. But, right,
Yeah.
I don't want to be, we don't want to be inciting vigilante justice, people trying to reclaim their own property and then getting killed. Like,
Yeah.
I can understand the liability argument of that.
Oh,
but
and it
why
gets-
wouldn't you transfer that information to a police department who could then try and reclaim that property and get it back to its
because
correct
they're
owner?
not interested. But I don't know
Then what
the
is the
full
point of
details
paying
of
for the
that,
That's
right? But
crazy.
these guys have a lot of contacts in pretty high-ranking, like federal law enforcement levels, all the way down to local law enforcement people. They're real tight with law enforcement, and so through a retired agent that they all are friends with and stuff, they were able to locate where it was. I don't know exactly how they did that, but this one guy, he went down. The truck was down in San Antonio, Texas, which is, I guess, a few hours south of Austin. So he drove down there. His truck still had the same license plate, all that stuff, being driven around by somebody that was not legally
What
able
the
to possess that
fuck?
vehicle, and they're on the phone with the cops trying to get them to come pull this guy over and get this truck back, and they would not do it. They said they would not do that unless it was parked at some kind of establishment that was not at a residence. And so the guy followed him down to the border. He stopped, and the truck went through the border, and the truck disappeared
Get
into
outta
Mexico.
here.
Word. And so not even Texas law enforcement will do that. I mean, they had him
Oh, this
right there,
country's
bro.
going to shit,
They had
dude.
him right there. The guy, he's got a video that he posted on Twitter. He's talking to the cops. He's following the truck. I'm right here. We can do this.
They have zero incentive to look out for you at all. They're
None.
not protecting you. They're not serving you. They're
No.
not zero incentive, zero reason, zero anything
Yep.
at all. That's insanity.
But Deborah says the Texas castle doctrine extends to vehicles.
My 4-year-old
go.
knows the two big rules, and our police forces that are paid for with your tax dollars won't even enforce them.
And to be fair, I'm sure they're hemmed up legally from doing their job.
Get my fucking truck back, you bitch.
Yeah, exactly. Although I don't hold that argument, to me doesn't hold water.
No, and if you're not gonna do it, if you're not going to do it, then
Yeah.
there shouldn't be any type of fucking penalty for me doing it. That's my fucking property. That's my truck. That's my shit.
Yep.
If you want to take my shit, I'm going to go and get it back. And if I shouldn't be getting in fucking trouble for it.
Yeah, because
No slap on the wrist,
because
no
law
nothing.
enforcement refuses to do it, I just have to accept that it's gone. That's the way that goes.
And when responsibility is abdicated, opportunity presents itself.
Yes.
And I'm gonna capitalize on that opportunity if you're gonna abdicate that responsibility. I'm not gonna just let that dude have my truck and potentially ferry people back and forth into Mexico with it. I'm not. Yeah, get out of here.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was just a fun little anecdote about stolen vehicles. So I have a question for you. This
Yes.
is a three-parter, right? So what is your biggest disconnect when it comes to these various three political groups? I'm just going to ask them one at a time.
Okay.
So what is your biggest disconnect with identifying with the progressive movement?
Oof. The progressive movement wants to.
This is an easy one.
Yeah, wants to grow government in pretty much every capacity, and I think that's very not good. That's a bad idea. More government is going to lead to less freedom. We talked about this already. This
Goes
is-
hand in hand.
It's proven already. So, no, that's a bad move. More government is not good.
Okay. What's your biggest disconnect with the conservative movement?
With the conservative movement,
And I'm using these big, broad umbrellas because I think that's the easiest way to describe these
Yeah.
factions.
I don't think the modern conservative movement really believes that people should be able to do what they want. I think they have a pretty narrow idea of what they think people should be doing. And if you're operating outside of that, then a lot of times they almost think there should be some form of penalty or punishment for doing that.
They like big government just as much as the lefties do.
Yeah, they're just a different application of big government in a more narrow field.
Okay.
So
That makes sense. Okay, so same question, but what's your biggest disconnect with the libertarian movement?
I love this.
Because it worked perfect because both of your first answers were about how to grow government. So
Yeah.
what's your biggest disconnect with the libertarian movement? That they're all just crazy? Or-
The biggest disconnect I have with the modern libertarian movement is they seem confused. They seem to be trying to advocate for operating outside of the system as it exists currently, while still trying to win a battle that they're also saying is impossible to win. So I don't get what the goal is, what they're trying to really get at. I don't think that it's effective. I don't think what they have going on is a winning strategy in any way at all.
Okay. And so then let's kind of pull back a little bit on a more ideological level.
I think they ride the fence too much. I think they either need to be into the system, and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna whatever, or be like, we need to completely separate and start over. But they have competing factions, and I've ranted about you at work that one day about it, that like they have people like Dave Smith that they're using as the figureheads, the people who are putting out the ideas that people in the Libertarian Party are running with, but that's not what the party in Congress looks like. The people who actually embody those ideals are in different parties. They aren't actually in the Libertarian Party. They're in the Republican Party because they recognize that this party can't win the way that it looks now.
Oh, yeah.
So if they believe in the shit that Dave Smith is saying, then that's what they need to go with. They need to be tearing all of this down, not trying to play the game and do all this stuff. They need to be convincing people that this is not the way to go and that this system is corrupt and it's going to steal things from them just like it has for the last...
Since its inception.
Exactly. So that I think is the biggest issue, is that they seem confused. I don't think they know what they want to do. I think they know what they believe and they know how they feel in their hearts, but they don't know how to apply that to how the country is today.
Yeah, I would generally echo that same sentiment, because out of those three movements, right, I identify with the progressive movement in certain kind of more libertarian based ideas, and like kind of everybody should just kind of do whatever they want, and that's fine. But their the progressive movement stance on it is you'll do what we say or else, versus the libertarian side would be like, no, you just do you, as long as you're not infringing on my rights or someone else's rights.
Right.
That's fine. You go do whatever it is that you want to do. I don't give a fuck. I might think you're weird. I might think you're wrong, but more power to you. Let's go. And on the conservative side, again, I identify with a lot of the ideals, but I think it's the same problem that you have. They want to enact those ideas through governmental force and authority. And I'm not. That's why I dislike Ron DeSantis so much, just because he is a dude that I guarantee you, will grow the size of government if he becomes president. And yeah, he might do some cool legislative things.
Right.
But that's more laws in the books, bro.
Precisely, because
that's a bigger and bigger governmental situation.
His deal is not, I'm going to convince you why the ideology that these groups are expressing is bad. I'm going to convince the politicians, and then we're going to pass a law that's going to outlaw this ideology from being expressed in these places. Whether or not it's a good thing that, man, I don't even want to say that, because there shouldn't be a place in which free speech is limited and you can't express yourself unless there's a private establishment in which that place is deciding you can't say that shit here. But when you're talking about government establishments, which are in effect public establishments, they shouldn't be telling people how they can and can't discuss things, right? Even, man, this is super sketchy, but whether or not those things are good or bad, the government shouldn't be doing that.
Yes.
And that's precisely what Ron DeSantis is doing, is using the government to ban certain ideologies that are being discussed in certain places.
Yeah.
So whether or not that's a good thing or not, that those things aren't being discussed there, it's not the role of the government to be limiting speech and expression and ideas.
There you go. I'm here for that.
Yeah.
I think that makes a lot of good sense. I think we'll end it there.
Okay.
I'll have lots more questions for later in the show, but they're more pointed for more categories.
So I only have one local story, and it's pretty quick. I don't have an article, but you can look it up very easily. There were, if you look up Eco Barriers T-Mobile Park, there were these, they're called Eco Barriers, these big-ass concrete blocks, right?
Eco blocks.
Yes, they're put outside wherever. They're construction zones, all kinds of stuff, right? But there was a shitload of them were put outside of T-Mobile Park, which is the baseball field
For
in
the All-Star
Seattle.
week.
Yes.
Yeah.
They just showed up before the All-Star week so that people couldn't be parking campers out there, right?
I have a tweet about this, actually.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. When the government was asked about it, the DOD or the DOT, I think, he was like, Greg Spots, his name is, he's like, I don't know how they got here. We don't know how they showed up, and we are not in a hurry to move them because we didn't put them there. And so we're not likely to remove crew members from other projects just to bring them here to move these eco blocks.
Okay.
But also we don't know how we. So you guys can all see. You can all see this picture. It's a crane that's putting them there. You can't carry them.
No.
Like you couldn't move it yourself. It's not like you can get your friends together and move fucking 30 eco blocks outside of T-Mobile Park because you don't want there to be RVs. Like as a personal vendetta, I personally don't want there to be RVs outside of T-Mobile Park. Right?
Yeah, that's how you get high crime.
You have to have heavy machinery to place eco blocks anywhere, and it's in T-Mobile Park. It's in downtown. It's in the middle of the city. So
you can't just it's a big operation to do that.
But they don't know how the eco blocks got there.
Well, here they are being
you can
installed.
see them.
You notice that everything's unmarked. There's no company logos on anything. The workers don't have any kind of company logos on them.
They're like, we don't know.
Lots of chains being put up.
So you can park cars there. Lots. Yep. So you can park cars in between the eco blocks, but you can't park an RV there.
Interesting. Well, let's go back to the
And
story.
this is a spot where there's usually an encampment.
Yes.
There's typically an encampment here.
Yeah,
usually how it goes, like in most other big cities, they kind of come through once a week, every other week, clear it out.
Yeah.
They move somewhere else. In a couple of days, they're setting back up in the same spots.
I would imagine this is a response from a call to action that was put out.
Fuck baseball, fuck this mayor, and fuck this city.
Yes.
Let's fuck that damn. Oh my God. This is effective. This is the way to go.
Yep. And so
Hilarious.
they were trying to do an RV park-in at this area to push back against the city, keep pushing them out. And
1 a.m. a little party. Thanks for that's so awesome.
yeah, parking anytime.
Thanks for being part of this. Let's celebrate getting one back over on the city. 5 p.m. All-Star game.
Yep. So that it just kind of works perfectly.
If we show up within 72 hours, they can't really complain that we're there, it says.
Yep. So Seattle, eco-blocks installed illegally on the street of Seattle will likely stay where they are unless those who place the barriers remove them.
Yes.
When asked about removing the eco-blocks, those concrete barriers that can weigh up to 2 tons from the Soto neighborhood, south of downtown, is that what that means, Soto?
I think so.
Seattle Department of Transportation Director.
South of downtown overpass.
Oh, okay. Yeah, which doesn't exist anymore, right?
Oh, correct.
Yeah. Greg Spot said it was likely his staff would be removing them now because it's a critical time for construction on or it was unlikely his staff would be removing them now because it's a critical time for construction or transportation projects. Just in terms of removing them, this is a prime construction season for us, and our crews are focused on building safety improvements and mobility improvements. It will be unlikely we will take people off just to move eco-blocks around, Spot said during a news conference on Friday in Seattle regarding the city's All-Star game. So they just mysteriously showed up.
Just showed up one day. Just dozens of eco-blocks just showed up out there.
Dude,
City
'cause
has no idea how it happened.
No, because you have to order them.
Yes.
You have to order them from a company,
Yes.
arrange for transportation to come out.
They put
then-
on a truck,
Yes.
taken out there along with the crane that you're going to use and dudes to help run the crane,
Yep.
and then placed there. And chains run because a ton of them
Oh,
have
yeah,
chains
they have-
running between
yeah.
loops.
And that's here's that picture of the chains running through there.
Yes. So a ton of them have chains in between the loops to stop.
Nobody
people
knows
from
how they
crossing.
got there.
City has no idea. I'm sure.
Well, there's a nice Amtrak warehouse by there. I bet they brought them in on a fucking
On a train.
on a
and just-
train, and then just whoop, whoop.
Yep.
Oh no, what happened?
Yeah, so I heard about this Thursday afternoon on the radio on my way home. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. Get out of here, this city. Bruce Harrell, who's like, listen, we're going to clean up this homeless problem. He's like,
Yeah.
also, I have no idea why you can't park an RV outside of there during the All-Star game. I don't have any idea what happened.
Jesus.
Yes.
This is an interesting story. I wanted to get your take on. I heard about this.
Oh my God, is this the same woman?
I think so.
Oh,
yes.
God.
Yeah, because you were the one that told me about this, right?
Yes.
So, a woman in Tacoma with tuberculosis will be forced to take medicine if she violates court orders.
Oh my God.
So on June 23rd, a judge issued an order releasing the woman from Pierce County Jail, allowing her to isolate at home under court supervision.
So this woman's had tuberculosis. I think I don't remember whether I talked about this on my solo show or not. I know that I meant to. This woman's had tuberculosis for a mad long time, and the state government's been trying to track her down. Like, she's been a wanted person by the state for quite some time, and they finally were able to get her because she wouldn't quarantine. She wouldn't stay home, and so they started looking for her, and they finally were able to catch her, and they put her in a government mandated quarantine inside of the jail facility because they couldn't fucking get her to stay in her house.
So it's like she wasn't like in jail. They put her in jail because they needed to try to isolate her once they found her.
I think that she did have a charge, and that's why they were able to look for her.
Okay.
But I don't remember what the charge was. This was weeks ago that I was. The first order, yeah.
Involuntary, yeah, because they can make an order for involuntary
Who has not
detention.
been criminally charged. But
Yeah.
I think that they have something prepared.
Oh,
you
I'm
know?
sure.
Yeah.
See, there's some kind of public health line. I mean, they fucking
Right.
find
Right.
people out of business for continuing to work during COVID. So this case is the third in 20 years where the health department has sought a court order to detain someone who is potentially contagious and refusing to seek treatment for tuberculosis. So just the third
Just for
one in
TB.
20 years for TB alone. So you have TB, a very communicative, very deadly disease. You cough up blood,
Because I looked it up, it does get it's very communicative, like you said. It's very easy to give to somebody else, and it can be super deadly when you have it. It can be.
And that was like we talked about this a little bit during the COVID thing. Like if somebody's got airborne Ebola,
Right.
can you fucking hem them up?
Whoa!
It seems to cross a few boundaries there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't know. When you're talking about tuberculosis or Ebola, like you by going outside and spreading that shit to other people are indeed violating their rights.
Right.
I would imagine.
Right.
You know, we could talk about COVID all day, and that's a different situation because people can die of flus and shit all the time. So where's the line in this? It's wicked gray. So it's weird that I'm like, yeah, just fucking lock her up. I don't know. I also don't want that to happen. I just kind of wish this woman would figure it out. Like
how deadly is deadly enough that you need to be locked up if you haven't?
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's a big question, though, isn't it?
Right.
It's a big question, and it's,
we need to put a threshold on the R naught of certain diseases
Yes.
to decide whether or not you need to be locked up if you have it and won't get treated.
I hate the fact that we know what an R naught is nowadays. We caught a new serial killer, or another
Really?
serial killer. Yeah, this one's really interesting. King Fi has been very friendly to me this week. An architect charged with killing 3 women in connection with long unsolved serial killings, right? The string of unsolved killings on Long Island, known as the Gilgo Beach murders, was, Gilgo Beach, I know that, was the subject of the 2020 documentary film Lost Girls. But in New York, Long Island architect was charged Friday with murder in the deaths of 3 of the 11 victims of a long unsolved string of killings known as Gilgo Beach murders after detectives pursuing new leads say they matched DNA from a pizza he ate at genetic material found on the woman's remains.
So they were watching this dude.
They were watching this
They picked
dude
up a piece of pizza that he ate.
to get his fucking DNA off of it.
Oh my God.
See, I don't know.
Rex Heuermann,
Rex Heuermann,
who lived for decades across a bay from where the remains were found, is charged with killing Melissa Barthélemy, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello. He's also considered the prime suspect in the death of a 4th woman whose body was bound and hidden in thick underbrush along a remote highway. So these murders happened here.
is that where Gilgo Beach is?
I'm asking you because it's on King 5.
It's got to be. Either that, or they're just reporting on it.
Interesting.
Let's do
Oh,
some
Nation
Googling.
World. Yeah.
Yeah.
The fuck?
Gilgo Beach. I can spell beach. Yeah, it's in Long Island. Whew.
Weird.
That's a good spot. We used to race along this road at some point.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
That's a long ass highway.
Oh, and it's wicked fucking straight.
Right on
Yeah.
the water too.
Yeah, street races right
Oh, I bet
down
it's
this
gorgeous.
street. Yeah, it was fucking wild, dude. I used to work right here. That was my spot. Look at that. Spent a lot of time in that fucking building there.
What is that tiny island?
That is Fire Island.
Really?
Yes, and it just goes all the way up.
It's like a sandbar
Yeah, that's really all it is. Yeah.
with just a road on it and some buildings, huh?
Yep. And lots of party people.
Do regular people live there?
Yeah, regular people, but I mean, you got to have a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it's generally a very, very gay neighborhood. We'll put it that way.
I just meant I wasn't sure if it was like Indian Island, it's like pretty much a military base.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
There's some other shit on Indian Island, I guess, but it's pretty much just the Indian Island military base
Yeah.
that's on there.
No, it's just regular ass people.
Okay.
It's a really nice spot, man.
Wow.
Mind you don't want to live there during hurricane season because most of the island just floods. It's problematic. Very low lying.
There's some
area.
dry bushes, dude.
Oh yeah, bro. It gets hot as fuck out there.
Fire Island.
But yeah, serial killers be
Jones
getting locked
Beach
up, bro.
Island.
Yeah, Jones Beach. There's a nice venue right there for theaters right on the water.
Wow.
And yeah, it's a pretty cool deal. We used to take boats from the small boat station, go down that channel, and on certain concerts and stuff, go just hang out and listen and watch the concert.
These are all little islands out here. These
Yeah, these are all little islands.
random unnamed shit.
Yeah, it's super shallow out there. People would die in the back bay all the time. They go out
Really?
there at night and kids, people drinking, whatever, and they'd be fucking flying in their super expensive boats and then not realize they come up on the sandbar and then oh bro.
Damn.
Rough stuff. Yeah, first time I ever saw a dead body.
Oh, that's horrible.
2 kids took their parents' boat out in the middle of the night, were drinking, and this was on a high tide, and they tried to go underneath one of the bridges, one of the low points, and
One of these bridges.
yeah, it was actually on the big Great South Bay Bridge. It was right out in front of the station too, so it was pretty fucked up. But yeah, they tried to cut it too close and just clipped themselves. That was a mess.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's a lot of search and rescue calls in that area.
I bet.
Yeah, big shit.
I didn't realize that that's what that was. Like that these islands were here.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's really cool. Most people don't really even know Long Island exists. You hear about like the Hamptons,
Yes.
because the Hamptons out
And
there,
that's
or
up here.
yeah, yeah, the Hamptons, East Hamptons, Bridgehampton. You know, going out this way, that's where serious fucking money's at.
Out in here.
Yeah, and then Montauk Point's another pretty popular
Yeah,
destination.
I've
You
heard
can hear
that before.
Yeah, I lived there
What's
for a lot of years.
New
That's
Shoreham.
yeah,
Rich people living out
Block
there
Island.
too.
It's
Block
called-
Island.
Yeah, it's called Block Island. There's a ferry that connects to Connecticut, goes down to Block Island. There's
Oh, that's just
small
what the town
little
is
airport.
called.
Yeah, the main town in that one. But yeah, that's Block Island. Another real popular place for really rich people. And the Martha's Vineyard. Yep. Yeah, to get you some.
Nantucket. Okay,
Yep.
all right.
Now you're all geographically,
Yes.
know where we're at now.
And I guess I just didn't. I never looked at any of this shit. I didn't realize they were all different islands.
Oh, yeah,
like
they're
I
a
thought they
fuck
were
ton of
just
little islands.
different portions of. I mean,
yeah, the
It-
whole northeast area is just scattered with a bunch of them tiny little islands.
like the sound kind of. It's like similar, a different shape and stuff, obviously, but
Yeah.
the same idea that it's just a fuckload of tiny islands.
Yep, and it was back in the day when like people would just fucking live on them, and then whole towns
Right.
popped up in these little islands. You wouldn't have that out here. Most of our islands are pretty, I mean, we have like Whidbey and
Yeah.
Vashon and stuff like that.
But the small ones, like
Yeah.
you could probably put a house on one, but you'd have to clear all the trees off of it and build a house in the middle of it.
God, that'd be so sick.
Most of those little islands have their beaches, and then they have still just a small forest right in the middle.
Yep.
Of it. And
That's
that's
they
what.
just hang out.
Sometimes there's deer or something out there if they walk
Yeah.
across on a low tide.
the
And they're like,
fuck?
"Help me!
I'm stuck.
Yeah,
That's when you get those strains of like super incest animals that have
Yes.
lived on this one island for like 150 generations, and they're all fucked up and mutated and shit. Very interesting stuff. But yeah, another serial killer that has a Netflix show that's put away now.
and these islands you have to either boat or fly to.
Yeah, there's ferries that go
Okay.
to most of them.
That makes sense.
Nantucket's real popular, real popular, especially because that's where Cape Cod's just to the north of it.
Yeah, because some of our islands, like Blake Island and shit, you have to take your own boat there.
Yeah.
Like there isn't a ferry that goes there.
No.
You can live there if you want, but you have to take your own boat.
Good luck.
Yeah, right. We have a lot of stuff like that out here. That's
Yeah.
what most of the tiny islands are.
Yep.
Government's like, if you want to build a house, that's fine, but I'm not going to help you get there. That's all you.
You can live there if you want. I wouldn't
Yes.
suggest it.
We're going to charge you every tree you cut
Yeah.
down.
One of the only times I would probably suggest listening to government in that one. Like, you don't want to live there, bro. You don't want, unless you're
No.
super self-sufficient.
Be rough in a
You can
storm,
handle
dude.
your business.
Those tiny islands, that'd be rough in a storm out here.
Oh, fuck yeah. And they get over there, I mean, they get legit ass hurricanes that'll
Yeah.
hit and just fuck up the entire island.
Yeah, let's look at the sound really quick.
So let's look at the sound real quick. So yeah, I mean, just lots and lots of little islands.
Yeah.
It's all that shit.
And then there's babies inside of there
Yes.
that are not named or marked because,
Like there you go.
yeah,
Huron Island. Ain't no road to get there, bro.
yeah,
There's a single ferry,
one ferry.
and that's it, bro. Once you're on it, you're on it.
Well, and even like where Fort Flagler is and stuff on Marrowstone, it's just the one bridge. Like you
Yep.
have to go across Indian Island and then across the other small bridge to get onto Marrowstone. And so, yeah, you take that bridge onto Indian Island and then go down around here. And there's a
And then one little
tiny
bridge.
Yeah, there might be another one at the top, but
Nope.
nope.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
just
There you go. That's Fort Flagler. So that's it. That's the bottom of it. Yeah, you just
yee.
the one tiny island.
Is that where you saw the whales that day?
Yes,
That
yeah,
was on
Dax
Fort
and I were-
Flagler?
yeah, we were. So they were coming through the sound here because we were out on the edge. Yeah, looking over one of the batteries. So it might have been.
Probably.
Yeah, it might have been over here. But
Very nice.
cool as hell, dude.
Bro, we got a shit ton of orcas out here, and I'm glad we're like the only place in the world where orcas hang out now that aren't like attacking boats.
Yeah,
Because that's. Have you seen the videos of like
Yes.
the orcas fucking over in Europe and shit?
they don't like what we're doing.
No, man. They're starting to get angry.
Yeah, not fans of it.
No. But yeah, that's really all I got for locals, man.
I like
We're
it.
keeping it light this morning.
I like
you
it.
know? homeless people and lots of questions.
Yeah. That is all that I have also. So I believe with that, we will call part 1 to an end, and we'll be back in just a few minutes for part 2 of episode 152 of Salt of the Streets. Of course, this segment, all the other segments are brought to you by Zeke, the executive producer. If you want to also be an executive producer of this show, go to the Patreon, patreon.com/Salt of the Streets, and sign up there. The highest tier. We also have other tiers, other stuff like that. We put out a new article last month. We're going to start working on the new one this month. It's going to be great. At the end of the month, last day of the month, they come out calling us some other stuff that he's working on. We're already talking about things that we're going to have going on next year for the Patreon. Same deal. Let us know if there's things that you want to see. I have begun construction on the new studio, so of course we will do a full studio tour video and everything when it is done.
Awesome.
It's going to be great. And as
High
progress,
quality
'cause there's-
materials going in there too.
That's
high
that is
quality
correct.
materials.
Yeah. So got that new masonry bin. So we'll see about getting some of that shit hung up.
Yeah.
And we'll be good to go. So, of course, you can go to saltofthestreets.com and find all of this, including our own personal social media, like you can see at the bottom of the screen. I am at Salt of the Street on Twitter and at alpaca_Donovan on Instagram. Colin is at Big Bird Offie on both of those things. Thank you guys very much, and we'll be back in just a few minutes.
Bye.
Welcome to the Salt of the Streets, coming at you every week with this food for thought. Hope you ready.